Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about movie licenses in tabletop role-playing games. So there's something weird happening in tabletop role-playing games right now with movie licenses. There's a company, the company's called Evil Genius, and their system is called Everyday Heroes, and it's a universal system. GURPS, Universal Role-Playing System, as an example. Cypher over at Monty Cook Games is a universal role-playing game system. It's really interesting. 5e is clearly the most powerful universal role-playing game system in the world, and it's not even a universal role-playing game system. Like, it's just like people switch to 5e not because it's even good at doing universal role-playing systems and allowing any world to live under it. They do it because they know if they make a 5e compatible game, they can double the amount of people who are willing to play minute one, right? That's why 5e is used. That's why 5e, without any attempt to be a universal role playing game system, is the most successful one in the world, right? And if you ain't paying attention, just look right or left, and you're gonna find some indie putting way less focus, if not scrapping their own system to immediately convert to 5e. It's definitely a thing. It's really arrived in 2022. The biggest one was Paizo. Paizo surrendered to Wizards of the Coast. It's like, yeah, we're just a scrub indie. We make 5e2 now. Shame on us. It's incredible. I'm so astounded by it. Okay, so this is really interesting. So first of all, let's just talk about D&D for a minute. Dungeons and Dragons has given up on licensed properties altogether. Okay, they're like, we want to make our IP, Dungeons and Dragons, as big as Lord of the Rings, right? And that is a thing that is happening right now. All right, but Wizards of the Coast was in the license game at one point. In fact, Wizards of the Coast held the D20 Star Wars license, which I own. I own the core rulebook, and I actually own quite a bit of that game. And boy, is that game going up and up and up in value, which is exciting. But Wizards of the Coast has completely abandoned licensed products as they right now. Wizards of the Coast could go to J.K. Rowling and say, "Hey, we'd like to make an official Wizards of the Coast tabletop role-playing game of Harry Potter with its own rule system, and we're going to take it seriously. We're the biggest tabletop role-playing game creator on the planet. You can trust us, right?" They're not doing it, right? Because they don't think there's money in it, and boy, are they right. There is no money in licensed tabletop role-playing games. The last successful one is FFG Star Wars, and that is falling off majorly. I almost never see it played. There's not a lot of squawk about it. Like, the narrative dice are interesting, but there's just no money in licensed tabletop role-playing games. Despite that, companies are still trying. So Evil Genius, very, very interesting. Evil Genius is using their Everyday Heroes to bring about a half a dozen films to tabletop role-playing games as official product. So listen to this. Here's what they're bringing over: Kong Skull Island, Pacific Rim, Escape from New York, Universal Soldier, The Crow, and there's one other property on the list that's really obscure, and I think that's it. I think there's one more, but that's enough to talk about, right? Like, so first of all, what's happening? Why are these companies even interested in this, right? So, and I know what you guys are like, money, right? Like, please, the world is too complicated. Stop and think before you talk, right? That's not the case. Okay, so you're like, oh, they want to make money, right? Like, it's a lot more complicated than that. These are global brands, right? Kong Skull Island is connected to King Kong versus Godzilla. That was I think that thing made, like, with the ancillary market, it definitely made $1 billion, right? Like, it's a $1 billion property, right? And it's a real intellectual property. So it's not just money when you bring a product to market. One of the things is, well, I think one of the reasons why companies are a little hesitant to roll out these IPs is tabletop role-playing games are incredibly strange. They are really unusual in that basically it's really, really unusual what they do. So one of the strangest things that role-playing games do is they permission people to create new content in your world. I don't think people have an idea of how strange that is, and like really scary for intellectual property makers, because then you're like, wait a second, the story you just streamed, who owns that? You used our characters. Do you own that? Do we own that? It's not clear, right? So the reality is, I don't know fully what to make of this, right? I think this evil genius thing is really, really interesting. And it's one of the biggest moves that I've seen in tabletop role-playing games to bring licensed properties into tabletop role-playing games. Dungeons & Dragons has fully abandoned this. Wizards of the Coast has abandoned this. So I think the reason is there's just the evil genius guys are just really passionate about this, and they've been able to bring this to fruition and make it a reality out of sheer force of will, because there's no good business reason to do this, in my humble opinion. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is a big move? Do you think that this might change the future of licensed properties in tabletop role-playing games? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.